can't believe you're still here. Why haven't you packed your bags yet? Kyle's voice boomed through the kitchen, his sharp words echoing off the tiled walls. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, fighting the urge to snap back. Because this is my home too, Kyle. I'm not leaving just because you bark orders, I responded, keeping my voice steady. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Jenna. I can send you packing anytime I want. Funny, I thought I had a say in my own life. I bit back anger, not wanting our 7-year-old son, Evan, to hear us fight again. He was in his room, probably trying to tune out our voices by burying himself in his toys. I turned away from Kyle, focusing on the streaked window above the sink. The yard outside, with its overgrown grass and forgotten swing set, was a far cry from the loving home I'd once dreamed of. The clinking of plates was all the response I gave him. He scoffed and stormed out, but his words lingered like a bad smell. Later, I found myself on the phone with my brother Logan. He was in his early 40s, always the solid rock in my life. Logan, do you have a minute? I asked, feeling the sting of tears in my eyes. Always for you, sis. What's going on? It's Kyle. Again, he keeps pushing me to leave. I don't know how much more I can take. Logan's sigh crackled through the line. Why don't you just come here for a while? Bring Evan. Get away from him. I wish it were that easy, I said, glancing at the clock. It was close to dinner. You know how he is. He won't let me go that easy. Besides, there's Clara to deal with, too. Ah, the ever-dramatic Clara, Logan muttered. I swear she lives to make my life hell. She's been staying here more often, criticizing everything from my cooking to how I parent Evan. Logan's voice turned serious. You deserve better than this, Jenna. So does Evan. Just remember that. I swallowed the lump in my throat and thanked him. Placing the phone back on the counter, I pondered if things would ever change. A tear escaped down my cheek as Clara's words from this morning rang in my memory. You call this a clean house, Jenna? I can see dust everywhere, and Evan's room is a disaster. I glanced around. It wasn't messy, just lived in, but Clara's version of clean was impossible to achieve with a child around. Evan emerged from his room, rubbing his eyes. Mom, can we have spaghetti tonight? I smiled and ruffled his hair. Sure thing, buddy. Go wash up. As I boiled water, I heard Clara's footsteps. Her perfume announced her presence before she spoke. Jenna, I need you to organize a reunion for my birthday, a big celebration with the family. And yes, it will be on your dime. My grip on the spoon tightened. Of course, Clara. Anything else? She smirked. Just try not to embarrass us again. I felt my anger bubbling beneath a mask of compliance. I'll make sure everything is perfect. Good. I'll expect nothing less. She drifted away, leaving a trail of condescension. I owed her nothing, but found myself trapped, again and again, in her web. That night, after putting Evan to bed, I stared at the ceiling, my mind churning. It was clear now. If I stayed passive, Clara and Kyle would drain every ounce of happiness from me. I had to be strong, not just for me, but for Evan. Maybe I couldn't leave just yet, but I could start planning my way out. Their control had to end, and I would be the one to break free. I switched off the lamp by my bedside, the darkness covering the grimly determined smile on my face. Tomorrow, I would take the first step. Because this was no longer just about survival. It was about making them pay for every wound, every scar. I awoke the next morning to the sound of the front door slamming. Kyle was already gone. Probably off to some meeting that he'd cobbled together to look busy. I got up and started my usual routine, putting on a pot of coffee and preparing breakfast for Evan. Mom, can I have pancakes today? Evan asked, a hopeful look in his eyes. Sure thing, buddy. Pancakes it is, I said, smiling at him. As I flipped the pancakes, my mind drifted to the conversation with Logan last night. Just as I placed a plate in front of Evan, Clara walked in, her expression as sour as ever. She took one look at the pancakes and shook her head disapprovingly. Pancakes again? You should be giving him something healthier, Clara sneered, taking a seat at the table. Good morning to you too, Clara, I replied, my voice level. Morning, she said curtly before turning to Evan. Your mother should make you oatmeal. It's much better for you. Evan looked confused, glancing between us. I like pancakes, Grandma. Clara huffed, but before she could retort, the phone rang. I picked it up. Jenna, it's Emily. I heard about the reunion. Do you need help planning it? Her voice was warm and understanding. My grip on the phone softened. Yeah, that would be great, Emily. Thank you. We made plans to meet up later that day to go over the details. The thought of seeing Emily lifted my spirits a bit. She always knew how to make me feel better. After walking Evan to the bus stop, I headed to Emily's office. She greeted me with a hug. "Let's get you some coffee," Emily said, leading me to her cozy office. We sat down and I poured out the whole story. Kyle's threats, Clara's insults, the forced reunion. Emily listened, her face a mask of concern. "Jenna, you're stronger than you think. We'll make this reunion, but on your terms." We spent the next hour brainstorming. Emily's ideas were brilliant. She suggested ways to subtly sabotage the reunion, making it seem like everything was perfect on the surface while slowly exposing the cracks underneath. "That's genius," I said, feeling a strange sense of empowerment. "It's what friends are for." "We'll show them who's really in charge," Emily said, her eyes gleaming with determination. When I returned home, Clara was waiting in the living room, her sharp eyes narrowing as I entered. "Where have you been? This house isn't going to clean itself," she snapped. "I was meeting with Emily to plan your reunion," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Well, make sure it's done right, and remember, no expenses spared. I want this to be remembered," Clara demanded, as if she were the queen, and I, her lowly subject. "Of course, Clara. It will be unforgettable," I replied, and I meant every word. As Clara strutted away, I clutched my phone, ready to text Emily. The plan was starting to take shape. That evening, as I tucked Evan in, he looked up at me and said, "Will you be at the reunion too, Mom?" "Yes, sweetheart, I will. But it's just a party for adults, so you won't have to worry about it," I assured him, brushing back his hair. "Okay, I just don't like it when Grandma makes you sad," he said softly. I kissed his forehead. "Don't worry about that, Evan. Things are going to get better." As I closed his door, I realized that my battle wasn't just for me. It was for Evan, too. Protecting him from the toxic web Clara and Kyle had spun was as important as breaking free myself. The next few days, I worked with Emily on the reunion plans while maintaining a facade of obedience at home. With every snide comment from Clara, with every dismissive glance from Kyle, my resolve hardened. Soon, very soon, they'd all see the truth. And this elaborate facade they had built would come crashing down, leaving nothing but the rubble of their pretenses and lies. Kyle cornered me in the hallway right after I finished tucking Evan in. I could see the frustration etched on his face. "Jenna, about this reunion, I expect you to handle everything. All the logistics, the finances, everything." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "Of course, I already have a plan." "You better not screw this up," he added, leaning in close enough for me to smell the whiskey on his breath. "I won't." I stepped back, creating some distance between us. "Anything else?" He smirked. "Just remember, all eyes will be on you. If you fail, it's on you." His threat hung in the air as he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there with a sense of impending doom. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Logan. "Need anything? Call me." I felt a surge of gratitude, but tonight wasn't the night to call. Kyle's words still echoed in my head, but there was something else I needed to focus on, figuring out how to turn his arrogance into an opportunity. The next day, I was back at Emily's office. She had files and folders spread out, charts showing everything from seating plans to catering options. "Emily, have you ever managed something this complicated before?" I asked, slightly overwhelmed. She laughed. "This is my forte, Jenna, but more importantly, how are you holding up?" "I'm ready to play my part," I replied. "Kyle wants me to handle everything, and I plan to do just that." A look of concern crossed her face. "We need to make sure you stay focused. Don't let him or Clara break your spirit." "Trust me, they won't get the better of me," I said with a determined smile. Together, we went through every detail. Emily had contacts in every industry you could imagine. We arranged for the best caterers, the most exquisite decorations, and a guest list that would make Clara proud on the surface. But underneath it all, there was a carefully laid trap. That evening, after making dinner for Evan and putting him to bed, I decided to confront Kyle about something that had been bothering me: the finances. I had stumbled across his credit card statements hidden in his office a few days ago. The balances were staggering, and it painted a different picture from the one he usually showed. "Kyle, we need to talk about something," I started as he watched TV. "What now?" he asked, not even bothering to look away from the screen. Our finances. I found some statements, and it looks like we're in trouble. He muted the TV and stared at me. You had no right to snoop around, he snapped. What's going on, Kyle? Why are we in so much debt? All you need to know is that I have it under control. Stay out of it, he said, standing up and towering over me. If you really had it under control, we wouldn't be in this mess, I shot back. He grabbed my arm, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to make a point. I said, stay out of it. I wrenched my arm free, my heart pounding. You're playing a dangerous game, Kyle. One of these days it's all going to come crashing down. He laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. We'll see about that. I retreated to my room, my mind spinning with thoughts of what I'd uncovered. It was clear now, it wasn't just about holding my ground anymore. It was about survival and leveraging what I knew to protect myself and Evan. As I lay in bed, my phone buzzed again with a message from Logan. Thinking of you. Be strong. I clutched the phone, feeling a surge of resolve. Tomorrow, I would make a call to my brother, and together, we'd start executing the plan. The clock was ticking, and every second brought me closer to the reunion, closer to exposing the truth. Because in the end, it wasn't just about getting revenge on Kyle and Clara. It was about winning back my freedom and showing them that their reign of terror was over. The following morning, I woke with a clear mission. Jenna 2.0 was ready to fight back. I called Logan, who picked up after the first ring. Jenna, what's going on? He asked, voice full of worry. I need your help. It's about the reunion. I explained the situation and the financial trouble Kyle was hiding. Logan didn't hesitate. I'm here for you. I'll do whatever it takes to get you out of there, he said. I just need to gather more info, cover my bases, I replied. We agreed to meet later to go over the details of what I had found. But first, I needed to put on the show of a lifetime for Kyle and Clara. Emily and I continued with the planning, her keen eye and vast experience proving invaluable. We met with caterers and decorators, inspecting sample menus and color palettes. Every interaction was a chess move, positioning the pieces just right. As we finalized plans, a thought gnawed at me, Clara's real intentions. One evening, while Clara was busy criticizing my choice of napkin folds, I peeked into her study. There, among invoices and old letters, I found her bank statements. It was worse than Kyle's situation. Large sums of money shuffled between accounts, traces of expensive purchases. My eyes widened at the reality that Clara was bleeding funds to keep her control intact. Mom, what are you doing? Evan's voice startled me. He stood in the doorway, his wide eyes reflecting concern. Just some boring adult stuff, sweetie. Why don't you go color? I said, hoping he wouldn't catch on to the tension. Okay, he said, his innocent face breaking into a small smile before he trotted off. I slipped the papers back and carefully exited the room. As Clara emerged from the kitchen, her eyes narrowed. What were you doing in my study? She demanded, suspicion lacing her tone. Just looking for some old family photos. I lied easily, meeting her gaze without wavering. Don't touch my things, Clara hissed, her nostrils flaring. Later, I met Logan at a small cafe away from prying eyes. I spread out what I had found on the table. Logan whistled low. They're neck-deep in debt, he said, reviewing the information. This is my leverage, Logan. This is how I turn the tables. You've got them by the throat, but be careful. They'll retaliate if they suspect anything. I know, I nodded, swallowing my fear, but I'm ready. We created a plan to unveil the financial downfall at the reunion. A slideshow, discreet murmurs among guests, subtle but effective. Our goal was to allow others to piece the puzzle together, sparking doubt. The week before the reunion, tensions were at an all-time high. Kyle was on edge, micromanaging every detail from afar while still trusting me to do the bulk of the work. Clara hovered, her eyes always watching. Emily and I added final touches meticulously, breaking for whispered strategy sessions. Everything needed to be perfect. Imperfection was our ally, hidden among gems. The day of the reunion finally arrived, and the house transformed. Fairy lights twinkled outside, tables laden with gourmet food adorned the living room. It was a vision, a serene facade over a simmering volcano. As Kyle hobnobbed with guests, his laughter loud and falsely jovial, Clara drifted from group to group, ensuring everyone knew she was the grand orchestrator. They bought it, Emily whispered, standing beside me. Good. Now, let's finish this, I replied, my pulse quickening. As the evening wore on, I noticed Kyle's brow furrow, a sheen of sweat visible under the party lights. Clara's smile tightened when guests started murmuring about rumors. "Jenna, a word," Kyle demanded, pulling me aside. His eyes searched mine, confusion and suspicion intermingled. "What's going on?" "I have no idea," I lied smoothly, raising a glass to take a sip. "It seems they're just talking." "You better not be behind this," he snarled, his grip on the glass tightening. "I'm just following your orders, Kyle. Enjoy the party," I said, walking away to mingle with guests, giving them knowing looks and selective bits of juicy information. As the night deepened, the whispered rumors turned into open conversations. The seeds of doubt were blossoming. Clara's mask of control cracked, and Kyle's facade began collapsing under the scrutiny. I watched from the corner, standing with Emily, strength pulsing through my veins. The time for everything to crumble was near. The empire of lies Kyle and Clara built would not survive this night, and come morning, freedom would finally be within my grasp. The main event of the evening approached, a speech from Clara. She had rehearsed it for weeks, littering it with references to her benevolence and family values. Standing in front of the guests, she cleared her throat, her voice ringing out. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here to celebrate my birthday and the unity of our family." Kyle stood by her side, nodding along. His eyes darted nervously through the crowd. I exchanged a glance with Emily, who gave me a reassuring nod. "We have so much to be grateful for, and I'd like to take this moment to express my sincere gratitude. It hasn't always been easy," Clara continued, her voice tinged with fake humility. In the back of the room, Logan began to quietly circulate, strategically striking up conversations about the whispers he heard regarding Kyle and Clara's financial situation. The rumors began to ripple through the crowd, each murmur louder than the last. I approached the stage with a tray of champagne, stepping up to Clara as she finished her speech. "A toast to your health and happiness, Clara," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Clara smiled thinly, accepting the glass. "To family," she echoed, lifting it high. As everyone clinked their glasses, I caught Kyle's eye and nodded toward the projector screen where the slideshow was about to start. He didn't know what was coming, but unease crept into his expression. The first few slides were innocent family photos, but as the montage progressed, images of extravagant purchases and high-life snapshots began to blend with spreadsheets showing massive debts. Gasps filled the room. Clara's smile faltered. "Wait, what's this?" she stammered, panic rising in her voice as the images began to tell a damning story. Kyle's face grew pale. He lurched forward, trying to stop the presentation, but Logan intercepted, making it look like an accident. "Sorry, didn't see you there, Kyle," Logan said, stepping aside with a grin. "What are you doing?" Kyle hissed at me, his voice low and venomous. "Just sharing a complete picture of family unity, like Clara said," I replied, my eyes cold. Murky secrets spilled out as the slides continued. Faces in the crowd turned from curiosity to shock, disgust tracing their features. Key family members, the ones who mattered most to Clara and Kyle, began whispering among themselves, their faith shaken. Clara's grip on her champagne flute tightened, and she turned to me, eyes blazing with fury. You did this." I stood my ground, meeting her gaze evenly. "Everyone deserves to know the truth." Kyle stormed toward the projector, yanking the plug out. "Enough!" he barked, but the damage was done. Silence hung heavy in the room. Clara tried to compose herself, a manic desperation in her eyes. "Please, everyone, this is a misunderstanding. It's not what it looks like." One of Kyle's uncles, an imposing figure named Robert, stepped forward. "A misunderstanding? How do you misunderstand years of debt and deceit?" Kyle stammered. "Uncle Robert, please, we can explain." "No need. I can't believe this is how you've been operating, Kyle," Robert said with a disappointed shake of his head. The atmosphere shifted irrevocably. Clara's regal demeanor crumbled, and she looked around helplessly. Kyle's attempts to salvage the night failed miserably. Guests began to leave, their polite goodbyes tinged with disdain. Emily leaned in, whispering, "You did it. They're done." As Clara staggered out of the room, she shot me a withering look. "You think you've won, but this isn't over." Kyle followed her, dejected and defeated. I watched them go, feeling an overwhelming surge of relief and triumph. The clock ticked closer to midnight, and the house, once a battlefield, began to return to its usual silence. Logan and Emily stayed behind to help clean up, their presence a calming balm on a night filled with chaos. "Thank you," I said, hugging them tightly. "No thanks needed, sis. You were incredible," Logan said, pride in his eyes. Emily added, "This is just the beginning, Jenna. Now you can start truly living." And for the first time in a long while, I believed her. The house that had once felt like a prison was now just a building, stripped of its power over me. Tomorrow would be a new day, and I was ready to face it, stronger and freer than ever before. The morning after the disastrous reunion, I woke up feeling strangely light, but the sound of Clara's strident voice soon shattered the newfound peace. "How dare you humiliate us like that?" Clara screeched, barging into the kitchen where I was making Evan's breakfast. Before I could respond, Kyle stormed in after her, his eyes blazing with fury. "You think you're clever, don't you, Jenna? I'll make sure you regret this." I took a deep breath, standing my ground. The truth was bound to come out. You can't blame me for your lies. Clara lunged at me, but Kyle held her back. "You've turned this family against us," she spat, her eyes wild with rage. "You'll pay for this." "You brought this on yourselves," I said calmly. "Now, if you don't mind, I have a son to feed." Just then, Evan walked in, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Mom, what's going on?" "Nothing, sweetie," I said, smiling down at him. "Just go get dressed for school, okay?" Evan nodded and shuffled back to his room. His presence diffused some of the tension. Kyle leaned in close, his voice low. "This isn't over, Jenna. You'll regret ever crossing me." I met his gaze, unflinching. "Try me." With a final glare, Kyle turned and dragged Clara out of the kitchen. The tension was palpable, but I refused to let it break me. Not now, not ever. Once Evan was off to school, I called Logan and filled him in on the morning's confrontation. "Jenna, you need to be careful. Kyle sounds unhinged," Logan warned. "I know, but I'm not backing down," I replied. "I need to do this, for me and Evan." We agreed to keep in close contact and ensure my safety. I spent the rest of the day working with Emily on potential job opportunities and figuring out my next steps. As the afternoon bled into evening, Kyle confronted me again. This time, he had a disheveled and weary Clara in tow. "What now?" I sighed, exhausted by their relentless anger. "You need to fix this," Kyle demanded. "Call the family. Tell them it was all a misunderstanding." "Why would I do that?" I asked, folding my arms across my chest. "Because if you don't, I'll make sure you and Evan have nothing," he threatened, his face inches from mine. "You forget," I said coldly, "that I already have nothing, thanks to you." Clara, her face twisted with desperate anger, chimed in. "You just wait, Jenna. You think you're smart, but we'll see how long you can last without us." I smirked, feeling a rare sense of power surge through me. "Watch me." They stormed out, leaving me alone in the quiet house. I sat down, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were losing control, and they knew it. Later, as I tucked Evan into bed, he looked up at me with concern. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" I brushed the hair from his forehead and smiled. "Yes, Evan, we're going to be just fine." The days following the reunion were a whirlwind of whispers, calls from concerned family members, and the slow unraveling of Kyle and Clara's control. The final blow came when Robert, Kyle's influential uncle, arrived unannounced. "I need a word with you, Jenna," he said, his expression serious yet kind. "Of course," I replied, leading him to the living room. "I wanted to apologize for what you've been through," Robert started. "It's clear now that Kyle and Clara have been living a lie." "Thank you," I said, touched by his sincerity. "And that's why I've decided to support you and Evan. Whatever you need, I'm here." Relief washed over me, and for the first time in a long while I felt a true sense of hope. "Thank you, Robert. That means more than you know." With Robert's backing, the tide had truly turned. The fortress of lies Kyle and Clara had built was in ruins, leaving them exposed and isolated. That evening, as I stood on the porch watching the sunset, I knew the battle was far from over. But I had allies, strength, and most importantly, the determination to see it through. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight I let myself savor this small victory. Evan and I were on the path to freedom, and no one, not Kyle, not Clara, could stop us now. The fallout from the reunion continued to ripple through our lives. Clara's usual iron grip on the family began to weaken, her manipulations exposed to those who once revered her. She was dealing with the social ostracism that came with her unveiled deceit, while Kyle's temper spiraled out of control. One evening, Kyle confronted me, his anger a barely contained storm. "You've ruined everything, Jenna," he shouted, his face flush with rage. I stood firm, keeping my voice steady. "This was your doing, Kyle. You and Clara lied and deceived everyone." He took a menacing step toward me, but just then the phone rang. It was Emily. I answered, keeping my eyes locked on Kyle. "Jenna, are you okay?" Emily asked, her voice tight with concern. "I'm fine, Emily," I replied, my tone deliberately calm. "What's up?" "I've got a job opening at the planning business. I think you'd be a perfect fit. Can you come by tomorrow to discuss it?" I couldn't help the small smile that tugged at my lips. "Absolutely. Thanks, Emily. I'll see you then." As I hung up, Kyle's snarl pulled me back. "A job? Now you think you can just walk away?" "Yes, Kyle. That's exactly what I think," I replied, walking past him without fear. The next day, I met with Emily and signed on to help her with events. It was a small but empowering start, a step toward financial independence. Later that week, Clara's desperation reached new heights. At a family gathering, which she had not organized, a scene erupted. Clara stumbled to her feet, visibly intoxicated. "You all believe Jenna's lies over your own blood," she shrieked, swaying slightly. I watched from the corner, seeing key family members cringe and move away. Robert stood up, his face displaying a mix of pity and disdain. "Clara, sit down before you make a bigger fool of yourself," he commanded. "Fool? You think I'm a fool?" She laughed, a high-pitched, unsteady sound. "You're the fools for turning against me." Kyle tried to pull her back, whispering urgently, "Mom, stop this, you're embarrassing us." But Clara pushed him away, her expression wild. "No, they need to hear this. Everything I did was for this family, for you, Kyle." Robert intervened, his voice sharp. "Enough, Clara. We've had enough of your lies." Her face twisted with rage and hurt, and she began to cry, finally breaking down in front of everyone. Kyle looked around, his face red with shame and anger. Feeling the moment was right, I stepped forward. "It's time to end this charade, Clara. The truth is out, and it's better for everyone if you just accept it." Clara's eyes locked onto mine, filled with pure venom. "You think you're so righteous, Jenna, but you'll pay. Mark my words, you'll pay." With that, Clara stormed out, and Kyle followed her, his steps heavy with defeat. The room remained silent, filled with the weight of the evening's drama. I slowly released the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Robert approached me. "You handled yourself well, Jenna. Don't let them drag you down anymore." "Thank you, Robert. I appreciate your support," I said, my voice a little shaky but firm. Returning home, I found Evan drawing pictures at the kitchen table. His innocent presence grounded me, reminding me of what this fight was truly about. "Hey, buddy, what are you working on?" I asked, ruffling his hair. "A picture for you, Mom. See, it's us at the park." I looked at the drawing, my heart swelling with love and determination. "It's beautiful, Evan, just like you." The days went by, and slowly the storms receded. Clara retreated from social circles. Her influence diminished. Kyle, faced with the full extent of his financial ruin, became a shadow of his former self. Meanwhile, my routine with Evan became a source of strength. Mornings full of breakfast laughter, evenings filled with bedtime stories. The toxicity that once dictated our lives was fading, replaced by peace. As I lay in bed one night, my phone buzzed with a message from Logan. "Proud of you, sis. You did it." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "Yes, we did," I whispered to myself, knowing this victory wasn't mine alone. Evan's quiet breathing from his room was a reminder that our journey was far from over, but for the first time I felt we were truly free, and that was more than enough to face whatever came next. I moved in with Logan the next weekend, Evan trailing behind me with a backpack full of his favorite toys. Logan's place was smaller but cozy, filled with warmth and comfort, everything our old house lacked. "Welcome, guys," Logan said, helping Evan with his stuff. "Make yourselves at home." "Thanks, Logan. For everything," I replied, giving him a tight hug. Evan explored his new room with excitement, and for once I saw a genuine smile on his face. It was a good sign, one that told me we were on the right path. The next few days were a whirlwind of settling in and adapting to our new environment. I started my new job with Emily, and she made sure I felt at ease. "Here's your desk, Jenna. Everything you'll need is right here," she said, showing me the ropes. "Thanks, Emily. I can't tell you how much this means to me," I replied, my gratitude genuine. "I'm glad to have you on board. We're going to make an excellent team." she smiled, giving me a reassuring pat on the back. Back at Logan's, Clara and Kyle's undoing was becoming a topic of gossip in every corner of our world. Clara had withdrawn, her social circle crumbling. Kyle faced constant scrutiny and was visibly crumbling under the pressure. One evening, Clara showed up at Logan's house, uninvited and visibly rattled. "Jenna, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. I didn't bother hiding my surprise. "What are you doing here, Clara?" "I came to make amends," she said, her voice cracking. "Please, I've lost everything." Logan stepped forward protectively. "Maybe you should leave, Clara." "No, let her speak," I interjected, wanting to hear her out. "I was wrong, Jenna, about everything." "I see that now," Clara pleaded, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I can't undo the past, but I'm begging you for a chance to make it right." I looked at Logan, then back at Clara. Memories of her cruelty flashed through my mind, but so did the thought of a fresh start. "Clara, I won't forget what you did to us, but for the sake of Evan, I'll think about it." Clara nodded, her face a mixture of relief and regret. "Thank you, Jenna. That's all I ask." As she left, Logan looked at me, eyebrows raised. "You sure about this?" "No, but everyone deserves a shot at redemption. Even Clara," I said quietly. The resolution was fragile, but it was a start. It gave me some closure. Months went by and our new life started to feel like normal. Evan was doing well in school, making friends, and enjoying his childhood, a childhood not overshadowed by anger and manipulation. One day, Emily approached me with a look of excitement. "Jenna, there's an opportunity I want you to consider. A management position has opened up, and I think you'd be perfect for it." I blinked, taken aback. "Emily, are you serious?" "Absolutely. You've proven yourself more than capable. Think about it." "I will," I said, a smile creeping onto my face as I thought about how far I'd come. That evening, I shared the news with Logan. "Emily wants me to take a management role." "That's fantastic, Jenna. You deserve every bit of it," he said, genuinely happy for me. As I walked to Evan's room to share the good news, I found him drawing another picture. This one was of the three of us, Logan, Evan, and me, smiling in front of a house. "Is that our new home?" I asked, my heart swelling with pride. "Yeah, Mom, it's us, happy together," he said with an innocent smile. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I hugged him tightly. "You did a great job, Evan. It's perfect." Looking at the picture, I realized that revenge had transformed into a journey of growth. We had moved past the pain and found strength in each other. No longer bound by the toxic grasp of Kyle and Clara, we were free to rebuild our lives. As I tucked Evan into bed that night, I whispered, "We're going to be just fine, Evan. Better than fine. We're going to be great." Our battle was over, and we had won more than just freedom. We'd gained a new beginning. This was our story now, rewritten in strength and love. And as I closed my eyes, I knew our future was as bright as the morning sun.